controls.
Yeah, done, sir.
All right, thank you very much. And just one quick question, which I presume everybody would have, is about the starting time. Are we going to continue this tomorrow, or you need some time and we start from next week onwards?
So,
How is
sir,
it going?
today is a day one, like it's
And
a kind of
just
a
one
demo
quick question,
session.
which
Like
I
next
presume
weekend we are starting.
everybody. Right, so we do have class tomorrow, right? I think he dropped. No? Gaurav, are you still there?
Yeah, hi, sir.
Yeah, so we do have class tomorrow.
Session about this, and from next weekend we are starting this new batch.
Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Okay, all right.
Hi, sir.
Hello.
Can you hear my voice, sir?
Yes, nice and clear.
Okay. Just checking, sir. Okay. You can start, sir.
Cool.
Today, what session, sir? Today, what demo session you are starting, sir?
I will just introduce everybody to the course, like some general queries that you might have, and we will try and look at some topics just to give you an understanding that how the course will flow and what will be the modes of training, right? How will I teach you, and other things.
Yeah, how much time, sir? Today first class, just half an hour or 1 hour. It will take, sir. Today first day.
Probably an hour or two, I think.
1 hour is fine, sir.
Yeah, 1 hour is fine. Yeah, so 1 hour it is.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Should we start? Right. I think the answer is yes to that. So, guys, just in case you're wondering why the green screen, I've recently learned, have you guys wondered why did we have blackboards back then, and slowly everybody is shifting towards green screens. Hang on, this guys, just avoid sending chats, please, for now. Okay, it gets really messy here. If you have any question, just speak up. Yeah, wait for your turn and speak up. Not all at a time. We're all grown-ups. We can do this one by one. I don't really have to control this. Okay, so I won't be looking at the chats for now. If you have any questions or you want to share a concern, some of you might have known me from past. It's been some time since I'm training, right? And I was away for a year and a half, I would say, and I'm coming back to training. So you might know me, you might not know me. That's okay. But the point is, no chats. I won't be looking at them. Okay, so coming back to it, why the green? It really is soothing to your eyes. It might feel weird initially, but in the longer run, when we will be having, longer duration class, let's say 3 hours, 4 hours, and you're continuously looking at the screen, it is less straining to your eyes, right? You might think that white chalk on blackboard or white color on black background would make more sense, but the more the contrast, the more strain it puts to your eyes for some reason, and it is not me who's saying this. There's been good amount of research done on this. So the green and white seems to be the sweet spot. Okay, so I'm trying this for the first time. Let's see how beneficial it is going to be. If not, we can always switch. All right. So first things first, you should know who you are training with. My name is Sukesh, and I am a CCIE security, right? And it's been about 13 years that I am working in the industry, right? Currently, I am based in Ireland, working with a company called Aer Lingus, and it's an airline company here. What do I do here? They have a legacy network, and we are migrating that network bit by bit to the AWS and Azure cloud services. Okay. So just a fair idea about what do I have in terms of experience and other aspects of it. Right now, in terms of the course, just okay, I'll show you the course content in a bit. So this course is going to be Palo Alto course where we will deal with two of their certifications, right? The associate and the expert, PCNSA and PCNSE. Okay, and you might have from my experience, people usually have questions like, is it good for beginners? Is it good for people with experience? Or, I would say it is good for everyone who is interested in learning more about firewalls. There's never an end to learning, right? You can always learn something. And what I get out of this is it's not that I've been working for so long and training for so long, so I won't be. Sorry, any question, anyone? Right? If not, please be on mute. Where was I? Yeah, we can all learn at every stage. So what I also expect from you is you will ask questions in the technical sessions, right? Which I may not be able to answer immediately. So that will be my learning, right? I will come back to you and give you answers on that. And it's been some time since I am training. You might see.
So by default, the data means the room communication will be allowed by firewall. So as
Hang on, Tulani, your voice is not clear. There's a lot of disturbance. Yeah, Dipesh, you can write on screen, right? Let me do that for now, please. Okay, let me just how do I remove this? Okay, this is good. Choose this. So I will give you time to ask question if it is a general query about the course. Just hold that for now, right? Let me give you an overview, and post that you can ask your questions. Okay. So yeah, I was talking about the course. These will be the certification topics which you will see, and you might find the way I train, the way I teach or deliver information is could be a little different, right? I don't really use too much of slides. I believe in giving you the information and letting you digest that. And how do you do that is by doing it, right? How do you learn to drive a car? By driving it, right? So the course is going to be full of practical knowledge, but before you get into the car, you need to understand, if it is a manual or an automatic, how do you go about the steering, the clutch, brake, etc. So just metaphorically saying, first we will learn about the basics of the firewall, the theory of it, right? Do we do all the theory first and then all the practicals? No, we will take over this bit by bit, right? For instance, here, let's go with this. For instance, here we're talking about PC and SE. Let me show you some basic first, and we will come back to the experts. अरे पढ़ लेने दो. Right. So we will start with the basics of, not even here, right? We will start with basics of firewall, like what a firewall is and how does it secure our network, right? And how does it make things better and secure in a network. It could be a legacy network, it could be a cloud, right? Everything is cloud now, so we will look at the firewall from the cloud perspective as well. We won't get into the cloud or the settings of it, but I will tell you that there's absolutely no difference. For example, if you know firewalls, you can configure it if it is a hardware device, if it is a virtual device, right? If it is sitting on the cloud, you can configure it anywhere. So starting with those basics of the firewall, then we will understand some Palo Alto specific things. Still right. Okay. So understand the basic of firewall. Now this will be true for any vendor, right? See, my objective here will be not just to teach you what Palo Alto is, right, and how it functions, but I will try and give you a perspective, give you an idea of how do you think about firewall as a technology versus just a particular device, right? For example, you try and learn one particular model of a car, and let's say you can drive manual, let's say Honda City, right? You can drive other manual cars as well, right? Of course, the layout of the buttons, the layout of the software, the layout of the reverse gear, maybe it could be different, right? Some of them could be 5 gears, 6 gears, right? The engine capacity might be different, right? With the similar, if you try and map this to the firewalls, all the vendors, they try and achieve maximum security for the network. The way they do it could be a little bit different, not drastically different, right? The layout of the firewalls, for example, create a security policy on Palo Alto and create a security policy on Cisco ASA's next gen. The way you do it could be slightly different, right? The way the vendors would process your security policies, the way they are matched, the way the security is provided, it could be different, right? But the basic ideology or the basic technology of the firewall, it would remain same. Of course, there will be some differences. I do not mean to say that all firewalls are same, all vendors are same, right? Of course, there are advantages. There are vendors who are at the top for a reason, right? There are vendors um, for a reason why we are studying them, right? We are not here for Cisco ASA, we are here for Palo Alto. There is a reason for it, right? They are the market leaders. They are the market leaders, and from the job perspective, from the work exposure perspective, the more firewall will be deployed in the network, more jobs you will have, more you will get to work on them, right? So I'll just take you through the topics real quick that we will cover in this course, right? Starting with the basics of the firewall, right? We will go with the management interfaces. How can you access the firewall through the CLI, through Palo Alto here has a dedicated management interface, right? Let's say this is your firewall. So in a typical firewall, let me just give you a basic idea of what I'm talking about, right? So you will have the trusted side of the firewall. Whenever you put a firewall into the network, right, you would always put it in line with the traffic, right? What does that mean? In line with the traffic means there's your internal applications, right? The traffic to these applications from internet, right, goes through the firewall here. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to explain, that it is in line with the traffic. Let's say you have your web servers here or any file servers. A user coming to access these files, they will have to go through the firewall. That is what inline means. So yeah, any firewall put in line with the traffic would divide your network, right? Some vendors like to call it the trust side, the inside side of the network, right? On the external side, untrust, right? Or they may call it outside. They may call it external, right? And likewise, internal here. Palo Alto uses trust, untrust, and there's a standard, almost everybody uses this, that is the DMZ, demilitarized zone. That is what it stands for. What does demilitarized zone means is, it's kind of contradictory. Demilitarized means there's no military, there's no security, kind of like that, slightly less secure if we have to understand it in a layman's language. But from the network's perspective, this is one of your strongest areas or the safest areas where you would want to host your applications. For example, in your network, you are hosting a website. For example, I am running this from Zoom, right? So my request would be going to their servers, sitting somewhere in their DMZ zone, right? And we are the users here out on internet trying to connect to there. Are we talking to anybody sitting here into the Zoom office? Are we interacting with their employees? Right? No, because that's their internal network. See, so this is how the bifurcation happens on the firewall. From Palo Alto perspective, we will deal with the terms like trust, untrust, and DMZ. Okay, and I was talking about the management interface. So the Palo Alto has a dedicated management interface. Now, this dedicated management interface, what it does, it manages the firewall. What do you do when you manage the firewall? Just take this here. You can configure the firewall. You can manage it, which means any changes that you want to do, any troubleshooting that you want to do, SSH access, CLI, right? HTTP access, or in this case, the centralized access via Panorama, right? What is Panorama? Panorama is the centralized way of accessing or managing multiple Palo Alto firewalls in your network. So what it does, so let's say you have these firewall 1, firewall 2, firewall 3, firewall 4, and n number of firewalls into your network. Now, you as an administrator, you can just log into the Panorama, and Panorama will have to be set up in a certain way, of course, before you can access and manage all the firewalls from the same device, which means you just log into, A.B.C.D, the IP address of the Panorama, right? And there you will have all your firewalls. You click on one and firewall 1 GUI opens. Now, will we look at Panorama here in the course? No, right? But how different it is from the firewall GUI? Not very different. Once you click here on the firewall, then you will see it is as good as that you're working on a single firewall. Okay, it's just a way of accessing or managing multiple firewalls under the same dashboard. That's it. It's not going to be a huge difference. Let's say you've been working on firewall, learning on firewall GUI. Tomorrow you get a job, you get a project on it, and you start working on it. And they give you this IP address of their network that this is what we have. And you try to log in and you go, boom. Oh, this is not what I have seen. But it is fairly straightforward. On the bottom left, I will show you the GUI, how it looks like. On the bottom left, you can select your firewall and just start working. And everything from that point onwards will be, you'll be familiar with that, right? So we're going to cover all aspects of firewall. Talking about the topics. Okay, I'm looking at the chat. There are some questions. Will the class be recorded? I have to record it. No, you don't have to record it. You will be provided with recordings. Right, let me just mute everyone. Guys, just the basic things, this is an online platform, right? We're all joining online, one person talking and everybody listening. So until and unless you have a quiet environment, right? Try not to go on unmute, try to avoid, causing disturbance. We're all professionals. Let's stick to that. And yeah, about the topics. So these are the topics that we will go through. We will take it topic by topic, slowly, right? Starting with the management interfaces. How do you configure them for SSH? How do you configure them for CLI, HTTPS? How do you provide management routing, right? And how do you restrict? You would want to give access only to the administrators who are responsible for managing Palo Alto, not to the entire network. So we will see how do we restrict that, right? And local administration, role-based, it could be, we will see profiles. There can be different profiles, super user, admin, local admin, right? Or simply a role-based access. You would not want to give entire access to someone who is not responsible for managing the firewall. Let's say your managers, right? There could be just read-only access to them, right? They should not be able to configure or make changes to the firewall because it is not part of their job role, right? So there can be different authentication profiles, and we can apply them to the users who access the firewall, and they behave right. Maintaining firewall configuration, how do you go about it? How is the running configuration saved? How do you restore yourself if you make mistakes, right? Using backups, how do you back up your configuration so that you can go to the backups if you make mistakes, right? Firewall to Panorama, how does that work? I will show you in the GUI, although it may not be practical because this involves Panorama, right? And all of these topics, guys, we will do as much as possible. Practically, we will see them in action. Okay. Now, there could be some license limitations on the Palo Alto. I would like to mention this. Not all of the features that you see on the GUI, they will be accessible. You can configure the firewall for 100% of the configuration you can do on the firewall. But when you try and test it, it might not work because of the licensing limitations, right? For example, URL filtering, right? Because URL filtering will require license. You might create a policy that, okay, block the categories, so and so categories of the websites. Let's say you want to block anything crime related or war related or hacking related categories. So it would need to access the database from the Palo Alto servers. And to be able to do that, we will have to register the device with them first, right? That means we will need a license. But other things which is local, for example, creating a policy with respect to the IP addresses, yes, it will work fine. Okay, so I'll try my best to get the license right for the entire class. But if that is not possible for any reason, I will let you know. Just giving you an heads up that we may or may not have the license of it. But that won't stop us from learning all the topics, right? Okay, on the chat again. Is the session available on YouTube? Yes, this particular session and probably another class or two to give you an understanding how the course is going. You may see links on YouTube, but I don't think the entire course will be on YouTube. I think networking has their own platform on which the recordings will be provided to you, and even after the course is over, the access will be there, so that you can try and keep revising for a limited for a limited period. Although I'm not entirely sure at this moment, but this could be a query for the admin team later on. Right, you can get in touch with them. So yeah, coming back to the topics, push policy updates to Panorama managed firewalls. Now again, this involves Panorama. We will be doing how do you do it on the GUI, right? But this without the license, of course, we will not be able to do. But you will have a fair idea about how it stands. Nothing critical. See, we are dealing with PC and SA, all associate level stuff. Okay, scheduling and installing updates. Not audible. Okay, guys, can you hear me? Can somebody confirm?
Yes.
Okay. So Muthu Kumar, you said I'm not audible. Please check your mic or whatever. And there's no point in saying this because I'm not audible to him. Anyway, these are micro level stuff you should be able to figure out. Okay, apply security zone to policies. The zones that I was talking about, trust, untrust, DMZ, how do they play a critical role in managing the firewall? What different type of interfaces, different type of zones at different layers, right? They have different functionality and features that we can use. Right, what do? Mostly we will use both, right? In some cases, we will do inter-zone communication. In some cases, we will do intra-zone communication, right? Sounds like a tongue twister, but it is not. It's fairly simple. So if I talk about that's your DMZ, trust, and untrust. So some of the communication, this communication going from trust to untrust, this is called inter-zone communication. Okay, and let's say you have different VLANs here internally or different VLANs here in the DMZ, right? VLAN 1, 2, 1, 2. Any communication happening between these two or here, right? That will be your intra-zone communication. Intra-zone means within the same zone. So this traffic technically does not cross the firewall and go to a different zone. It is going inside through one interface, coming out from the other, right? or from the same, provided they are in the same zone. So that makes it intrazone. Now, since we are here by default, your intrazone communication, this is allowed, right? And the interzone communication is blocked. So how do you do this is you will open up this communication specifically for your intended traffic. You would not just want to open it for all, right? So yeah, these things we will look in detail. Different type of interfaces. Yes, the firewall can act as layer 2 interfaces, layer 3 interfaces. It can have a virtual wire, right? It can have interfaces that will be taking part in high availability, right? Where you will have two firewalls acting as one, or as an active and standby roles, right? So there will be different type of interfaces to keep both the firewalls in sync. So technically, it's the same interface, same physical interface. The form factor of it is not different on most of the models, right? But it is all done in the software, the PAN OS. Okay, maintain and increase the configuration of virtual logical. Increase the configuration doesn't look right to me there, but it's okay. So here you will understand the routing perspective of the firewall. Now, trust me, guys, if you know routers and you know how routing works, this is not going to be any different, because as I mentioned, technology remains same, right? The driving perspective of any car from any vendor will remain same. So if you know routing, routing is going to be same for Cisco, same for Juniper, same for Palo Alto, same for a firewall, same for a level 3, layer 3 switch, right? Same for a load balancer. It will remain same for the firewalls, Palo Alto, Checkpoint. Anywhere you do routing, it is going to behave in the same way. What do we look at it then? If it is same, we are just going to look at how do you put a static route onto the firewall, how do you put OSPF, how do you run BGP here. So all those things we will see, right? Checking the routing table on the firewall, that's what I will tell you here. I won't be teaching you how OSPF works, right? I won't be telling you what a static route is or what routing is in particular, or how BGP works, right? You've done that in your CCNA courses or over the experience. You might have learned that. So we won't be going in the details of routing or any routing protocol, but from the firewall perspective, we will understand how routing is configured here. Okay, policy evaluation management phase comes in then. This is where we do policies, different type of policies on the basis of app IDs, right? Policies on the basis of app ID, user ID, right? Device ID, then your grouping of rules by managing it, right? Different type of rules you can have interzone rules, intrazone, universal, which applies on both, right? So different use cases for different type of rules, right? App ID is, I'll give you a brief of it just to make you excited that what can the firewall do, right? The Palo Alto has a database, or I should say the signature of all the applications available to mankind, right? All the applications are categorized and they have their signature. Now, what does signature mean? Just for now to understand, and in a layman term, how do I present myself to the bank? I do a signature, right? And that's what all you guys do. Now, this represent me as who I am, right? Similar concept works with applications. Now, let's say I have created an application it will have my signature. Now, signature here in terms of application won't be this signature, but it is your application information, your if your application is working on HTTPS, the device, the HTTPS SSL certificates, right? All encrypted, right? With your private keys, with hashing, and that hash that makes it, you call it a digital signature, right? So all those things, in terms of application, they have in their database, right? So let's say you want to block any application which is under the category of messenger, right? You don't want your internal network to, to be chatting on Facebook Messenger, Gmail Messenger, or any kind of messenger for that matter, right? You can block that with the application identity. User identity, you can create rules with the username, right? When you work, you get the user alias, right? For example, in my case, I mostly get this and under the Active Directory. So with this name, I can create firewall rules. Okay. All of this, I think all of this, not app ID, but user ID, we can also see in action without the license as well, because this does not require Palo Alto database involvement, right? We will just set up the Active Directory server. We will register a test user on it, and the Palo Alto firewall will fetch the users from the Active Directory, right? And any user trying to go out on internet, right, will be authenticated against the Active Directory. And the policies that you have, the security rules that you have here, they will have the user ID in them, not the IP address, right? One good use cases of it, where you have the user who's mobile, right? Somebody who is working in different departments, collaborating with different departments of the company, right? But you as a firewall administrator, you want to give him a streamlined access. So in those cases, we use this. The use cases are rare, but you may not see this being used very often in production networks, but it's an interesting feature to learn. Similarly, you have device ID. I don't recall what device ID is, but that's okay. We will do it when we are going through the topics. I just like to think out loud. And what else? Yeah. So you have other next gen features. That's what I like to call them all together, right? Your firewall can protect you against viruses, right? The network related viruses who try to expand themselves once executed into the network, right? Any file that you're trying to download, and if it contains a virus or a spyware, the firewall has the capability to detect that file and kill your downloading session, right? Vulnerability protection, different vulnerabilities into the system, like Windows systems or other operating systems, right? And anybody trying to exploit those well-known vulnerabilities, right? The firewall can protect you against those. It can do URL filtering. It can do wildfire analysis. Now, it's a fancy term, wildfire. It's basically a sandbox. You know what sandbox is? It's a testing area or a testing network where you excuse me, where you can, you know, check, or let's say you have a malicious file or a suspicious file trying to be downloaded, so you can just, you know, send it to the sandbox, open it, run it, analyze it there in the test network, right, where where you have nothing to lose in that network section, right, and notice the behavior of the file, and if it looks all good, does not do any harm to the network, then it is good to go, right? All sort of analysis. This is what the firewall can do. Now we can create and modify, of course, the policies with respect to these. Right, then you have system logs, traffic, the information available in logs. We'll go through the logs. How do you see them? What all information you can get from them, and how do you use this information in troubleshooting your network problem, right? Or security problem, I should say. Right, DNS security, how do you achieve that? Just these are all seem very detailed topic, guys, but these are nothing, no, very small topics these are. So don't get overwhelmed looking at a lot of new things if they sound new to you. Right, we'll go in detail with the URL filtering, because that's what you see in production. Right, and throughout this course, guys, I will be keep telling you that, you know, what is important, what is that you will expect to be worked on, and what will you be tested upon in interviews, right? But that does not mean that these are the topics important for your exam. If at all you are preparing for exam, there's a whole lot of, you know, different approach of study if you're studying for the exam versus if you're studying to get the job and start working on it. Okay, so my focus will not be the certification, but of course, if you have any questions related to it, I will be happy to answer them. But throughout the course, I'll be emphasizing on working knowledge, right? For example, IPv6 on firewalls, it is part of the certification topics or the list, but you don't see that. I've never seen it so far on a firewall, right? So the chances are you will not see it for a good near future, for at least next 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know until when. Okay, I hope you get the point. Differentiate between group mapping and IP. The user ID policies that I was talking about, it is the same. So you can create policies on the basis of names instead of the IP address. That means if I, as a user, I log in with my credential on device A versus I log in on device B, that makes no difference. I will have the same amount of access. Right, so this was PCNSA. We'll go with PCNSE as well. Now, we might not go, guys, topic by topic in sequence, right? For example, when I'm telling you about the interfaces here in the basic part, I will also be telling you some expert level things which are part of PCNSE. Okay, so that's how we will try to take over both the certification, you can say, or you know, all the topics as one topic, but not different. Okay, for example, here this is all PCNSE stuff, but I will tell you in the beginning. Okay, when we are learning about the firewall basics, learning about the interfaces. So yeah, so don't try to match my training with okay, today we did security components, today next day we will do firewall components. No, it is not going to be like that. Okay, it's going to be a more of an holistic approach about both these certifications. Okay, and of course in the topics you will see there's a lot of overlap, because in PCNSA you just get the overview of that, and in SE you will get to go in more depth. Okay, and I'm sure this this PDF, I think, will be shared with you all once you register, and when we are towards the end of the course, you can always match that. Did we cover all the topics or no? Right. Okay. Now again, enforcing user ID. How do we do that? How do we create the ID? How do we create the Active Directory server? How the firewall communicates? What are the protocols involved? How do you troubleshoot it? Right? Everything we will be going through. Authentication policies, you can use them pretty much anywhere, right? When you such is the Palo Alto operating system, right? More of object oriented, right? Like everything these days. Object oriented means you create an object. Let's say I'm calling an object here authentication profile. You create a profile or create a policy, use it for user ID, use it for, let's say you're talking to, the firewall is talking to active directories, right? So it can fetch a lot of information, and that information can be used in different configurations in the firewall, right? Right, fundamental functions. Again, this is part of PCNSC, but we will cover this on day one, I think. Right, talking about fundamentals at the Palo Alto. What makes Palo Alto is their operating system, which you will hear a term called SP3, right? Single pass parallel processing, which means the Palo Alto takes the packet, processes it through different engines parallelly, not one by one. It is not checking, URLs, and then it is checking for routing or vice versa, and then it is checking for security policy. No, it takes a packet, checks all the things parallelly, consolidates the result, and provide you an output. So things are faster, the throughput is better, the management of it is better, right? That's what differentiates it from other vendors. Okay, there's a question in the chat. How many types of firewall are there? I will come to that in a minute. Okay, let me just go through the topics. Okay, in the next phase of deploying the core components of the firewall, right, we have SSL TLS profiles, which will help us in, client VPN, which will help us in decryption of the traffic, right? And we will see some very cool and interesting concepts related to SSL and IPsec here. Right? Then you have your usage profile change again. How do you manage your certificates? Okay, this area is all about certificates and some other topics like natting. These are also like integral part of of these topics, IPsec, right? We will learn how to build a tunnel. There will be a good amount of theory on the VPNs, because VPNs you will see everywhere. So there will be emphasis on VPNs. You'll need to understand VPNs thoroughly, as thoroughly as you should be able to answer questions on VPNs even if you are in sleep. Okay, so we will try to cover it as much as possible, because in interviews they don't ask you how do you create policy on a Palo Alto firewall, right? They will ask you the technology, right? So the focus will be on that here. And VPN is one of the very favorite topics of any firewall interviewer. You're going for a Cisco firewall, you're going for Checkpoint, ASA, any firewall. There will be questions on VPN, right? So I'll try to cover the theory as generic as possible, and then we will do the practical on the Palo Alto, of course. Right? So you get to know both, best of both, generic and vendor specific as well. Same goes with the high availability, how it works, how it is. There are different approaches of doing HA. QoS, right? Nobody does QoS on firewalls, to be honest, right? But anyway, we will go through these topics. This is further breakdown of what will you do with app ID, right? Global Protect, the VPN, the user VPN solution, right? The remote VPN, where it has different solution, different topologies. One firewall can act as a client VPN to a branch, right? Sorry, I said it the other way. The branch firewall could be a client VPN to the headquarter network, right, and so on. So different topologies possible, different designs possible. We will go through them all. Decryption on the firewall, right? So when I mentioned if you're downloading a file and if it contains antivirus and spyware, right, the firewall has the capability to detect. But all these websites that we access mostly are HTTPS. That means you are using a secure tunnel. So if things are in a tunnel, that means they're encrypted. And if they're going through the firewall, of course, cannot understand them, right? So this decryption feature gives them this understanding of those packets, right? And we will see this in detail. Okay, there's another question. I will take questions, guys, towards the end. Okay, just hold them for now. Again, more details on user ID, right? Benefits of using it, ID mapping across virtual systems, how you can use it in different places. The user ID, the concept remains same, but the usage of it, it will change as needed. You can use it in VPNs. You can use it in for policies, right? And any role-based configuration that you're trying to do. Again, the wildfire web proxies. This is not in detail proxies, guys. Don't expect we're doing some pfSense level stuff here in detail. This is just going to be an overview of it. Right, managing firewall configurations with Panorama. Again, I will be telling you on the GUI. We might not be able to see this practically. Just a heads up. right? This is all related to Panorama. How do you add a firewall to Panorama, and how do you differentiate? How do you manage the configuration of all the firewalls differently, and we reuse the configuration wherever possible? So how do we segregate those reusable stuff? For example, you create an object of let's say 10 network 10.00/24. Now this could be used anywhere in any network on any firewall, right? But the way you use it, in some cases you may want to allow traffic to this or traffic from this. Some cases you may want to deny this, right? So all that can be managed on Panorama very well, and we can reuse these configurations. All right. Again, the VPN stuff, different type of VPNs, IPsec, GRE, one-to-one, one-to-many. How does that work, right? We will see that in detail. The troubleshooting part of it, the decryption, proxies, certificates, all these are inclusive of, under the umbrella of VPNs. So when we do VPNs, we will do all of this. They try to break up all the topics just to get you an understanding of what you're trying to learn, right, from the certification perspective. Right, of course, we will go through the logs, the HA, different type of HA settings, right? Mostly, practically speaking, you will always be doing active standby, but we will see other things. Okay, we have seen PC and SA. Right, so this is how you can reach your network king's admin team, right? And we'll always be there to help you. Now, let me look at the chat. Okay, there's a question. How many types of firewall is there? See, it's a very broad question, and if you even if you Google this, you will see different type of categories of firewalls: software firewalls, hardware firewalls, stateful firewalls, stateless firewalls, network firewall, application firewall. So you don't really have to understand it that way, right? That these are the types of firewall. No, you have to understand why they are called, software or hardware or stateless or stateful or a network firewall or an application firewall, right? For example, a network firewall would work on port basis. It will work up to layer 4. You can create policies on the basis of IP address and port numbers. You cannot create policies on the basis of names, right? An application firewall, on the other hand, has the ability to identify your application. It has the capability of blocking an application on the basis of signatures, right? Okay, the next is and whoever question is, if you have any follow-up question, you can always speak up. I'll go to the next one for now. Do PA firewall have centralized management as and so forth? If available, do we need a license to register a single firewall? Yes, there are two questions in it. Is the management centralized? Yes. Do we need a license to register a single firewall? Yes. Last I checked, it was yes. But yes, during the practical, we will try again, if there is a change into that and we could register a device for testing. Yes, surely we will do that. Okay, another question, interesting one related to the course path. I will be completing CCNA in 2 weeks. Will I be able to understand Palo Alto Firewall, or do I have to complete CCNP before enrolling to this course? See, you can do this. You can do this all together. Okay, CCNA, CCNP, Palo Alto, F5, whatever you're trying to learn, you can do it all together. It all depends on your capability of learning, right? With respect to whether the topics will have a reference to CCNA, if you know what is IP address, if you know what is MAC address, how do they communicate in a LAN, and if you know the protocol ARP, right? And static routing, you're good to go for firewalls. Okay, and I'm sure in you already know that in CCNA since you're about to complete in 2 weeks. Okay, so yeah, you can do it. So will you be covering? Okay, next question is related to troubleshooting. Of course, we will learn how to troubleshoot the firewall. Okay, there's no other way about it. Okay, cool. No more questions in the chat. Let me know if you guys have any questions related to the timing. Let me just confirm that. Saturday and Sunday, we will try to do next weekend onwards. We will start the topics, right? And we will do 4 hours each, Saturday and Sunday. We'll take a break after 2 hours or whenever convenient, right? For you guys and for me. Let's say we're doing some heavy topic, we can keep on going for 3 hours and then take a break and come back, or maybe stop at 3 hours, right? We will do it that way. So we'll be flexible. All right, and the total content of it in terms of number of hours, if you see, it is going to be 40 to 45 hours of Palo Alto training. Okay. So that's all from my side for now. Let me know if you have any questions. If not, we could stop here. Okay, there's another question in the chat. Network security covered topics, routing, switching, and firewall.